It's Friday, which means we've got the third band for Bang Dream, and this time, it's Afterglow.
Stand up! Vanguard!
Hey Cardfighters, welcome back to another Cardfight update, and today we got the third band revealed for Bang Dream. This was already announced during Tuesday's livestream that today we're gonna get the third band, and it's a very interesting band. However, this isn't the only news that we've got today, as we've got a bunch of extra information concerning the upcoming booster sets for VBT 8, 9, and 10. So without further ado, let's jump right into all the news. And we're gonna start off with a Vanguard 0 news, because to all of our surprise, we know that Japan is gonna get the Aichi Celebration birthday event, where they're gonna get a lot of extra packs and all these kinds of things. And we on the international side were thinking, do we get something in return as well? And today we finally got an answer, because in the app we got a new announcement that if you log in tomorrow on the day of Aichi's birthday, we will get some extra exclusive items, probably for my room, but we also are gonna get 10 free gacha packs. So for anybody that's playing Vanguard 0 or hasn't been logged in for a couple of days, you should definitely log in tomorrow on June the 6th to get at least 10 free gacha packs. So with the Vanguard 0 news out of the way, let's dive into the set news, as we got a lot of interesting things. One of the important things is that we now have a confirmation that for VBT 8 and 9, so Silver Dust Blaze and Butterfly Under Moonlight, they're gonna have an increase in the pull rate for VRs and triple Rs. For the VRs, this isn't to our surprise, because starting off from VBT 08, as I explained a couple of weeks ago, we are losing the SVR rarities. So SVRs from VBT 08 and onwards are not a thing anymore. And we've seen this for VBT 08, VBT 09, and even for the upcoming VBT 10 with the new Shadow Paladin support. All those sets will not contain SVRs. So the increase of the VRs is quite logical, because the VRs are going to replace the SVR spots. But we also going to get an increase of triple Rs, which is actually pretty nice to hear. This is unexpected, and this probably will help to lower all those prices quite considerably. So that's a pretty good thing, especially for budget players out there. So I hope these are going to be some big increases. But not only that, we also saw something interesting in the product reveals or the product information for VBT 08 and VBT 09, because if you pre-order those sets, and this is only on the VBT 08 side, this isn't completely confirmed on the VBT 9 that you need to pre-order them, but if you pre-order boxes, per box, you will get a special clan dice. And this is interesting, because the information isn't really clear about what these dice actually are. There probably are going to be 6-sided dice, and on the, I believe on the 1 or on the 6 spot there will be a clan icon, which is pretty nice. But for the VBT 08 product information, they say something about you need to pre-order, but they don't specify if you need to pre-order boxes or cases. And on the VBT 9, the Rummy Labyrinth set, they just specify when you buy a box. So the information is a bit counterintuitive, and they're different on both sets. So either we need to pre-order them and it's gonna be included for every single box, or you need to pre-order a case and there will be a X amount of dices distributed in those sets. However, they're gonna be special clan dices, which is actually a pretty nice surprise, as these are just extra things on top of what we're already going to get if you buy a box. So definitely keep an eye out on those things, and keep in touch with your local stores or retailer to get more information about how you can acquire these dices, or just wait until other players get their hands on them and sell them on the secondary market. Now that's the information that we got for VBT 8 Silver Dust Blaze and VBT 9 Butterfly Under Moonlight. But we also got some extra new information for VBT 10 Phantasmic Dragonheart, as this set was revealed to us this Tuesday. So it's a brand new fresh set. But now we already saw some new information these past few days concerning this set. First off, we knew that this set was going to get a special marker mechanic, and that marker mechanic has been revealed to which clan it belongs to, as it will belong to Mega Colony. But today we got some more information to have a better understanding what this actually will entice, because This marker mechanic will not be to something like we've seen with Grand Blue that's going to be a budget build or for another triple R. This marker mechanic will actually be working with Ghidorah. So it's going to be the main VR mechanic. So that's gonna be very, very interesting. But what we also learned is that Luard is gonna work with Dragstrider Luard. So Luard can transform into Dragstrider and then will activate certain things. And it's also been confirmed that Dragstrider is a separate card that will be placed on top of Luard. So either it will be a token-esque card or it will be an actual card fitting into the deck and might take up a triple or double or rare slot. Besides that, we don't know. It's just that it's a separate card that will be placed onto Luard, which is pretty interesting. What we also know is that Phantom Blaster Overlord is confirmed to be a cross-ride version of Phantom Blaster Dragon. However, keep in mind, we don't know how direct of a cross-ride this actually means, because cross-rides in standard at least have been pretty generic, as either you need a Alfred in your soul or you need a Blaster in your soul. We've seen this with Ghost Blaster Dragon that needs a grade 3 Blaster unit, so it could either be himself or Phantom Blaster Dragon. So we have to wait and see if Phantom Blaster Overlord directly, specifically specifies that you need to have a Phantom Blaster Dragon in your soul, or it just asks for a Phantom Blaster maybe. And as seen as its own name is Phantom Blaster Overlord, it might feature itself, because I'm not so sure if it's a good idea to specifically make it work with a 2-year-old VR that got no reprints whatsoever. Sure, Japan got a special reprint in that special set, but we never got them. And even for Japan, it was only 1 copy per thing. So there are not many in circulation, so I'm not so sure about that idea. And then, of course, we got 2 more clans in this set. We got Tachikaze and Spike Brothers. Both have been confirmed that they're gonna build upon their already existing strategy. So Tachikaze is gonna improve on their equip gauge, and Spike Brothers is gonna improve on their marker mechanic that we've seen with the previous Bull Spike set. So interesting information, and I cannot wait until we get some official skill reveals so I have an understanding of what everything gonna do. Because in Crossride, in standard, pretty interesting, but that Luard thing sounds really, really interesting. So cannot wait till we get some more reveals, but that will probably take at least 1 or 2 months before we're actually gonna dig into that. Now, with those set information out of the way, we dive straight into the new card reveals that we got for Bang Dream, the new character booster Bang Dream Film Live. As the third band that was revealed was, of course, Afterglow. And they got a bunch of cards just like the other bands, so let's jump straight into these cards and go through them rapid fire, so this video doesn't have to be longer than it needs to. So we start off with the new starter, Always Start Ren Mitake, and it's just a generic starter, nothing really to talk about here as it's just a generic starter. Then from the grade 0 version we go into the grade 1 version, which is Hating Loose Ren Mitake, and her skill is Auto Vanguard the Vanguard Circle. When placed, if you have an Afterglow Vanguard, draw a card and discard a card from your hand. This ability may only be used by a card with the same card name once a turn. So this is just a free cycle. It's basically the same as the grade 1 unit from the Bermuda Triangle trial deck. So it's fine. It's not amazing, but it's fine for what it is. Then the grade 2 version is Burning Heart Ren Mitake, and her ability is Auto Vanguard the Vanguard Circle. When placed, reveal the top card of your deck, and if that card is an Afterglow, put this unit into your hand. Return it in the original state if not. This is quite interesting, because this is basically a free plus when you place it, because like your entire deck are Afterglows, so you can basically get all the cards, get a free plus. However, with that said about the triggers, there's an interesting thing here, because all the triggers are from different bands, and currently we don't see the band race printed on the triggers themselves, but what I am assuming here is that every trigger will belong to a certain band. So you have the Pop and Party triggers, you have the Afterglow triggers and whatnot. But currently on the Wikipedia and on the images that we got from Bushiroad, they don't have a race. So this will work regardless, but if these triggers will belong to a certain race, we can do something sneaky here. Because if those triggers belong to a certain band, you can actually just play the triggers of a different band in this deck, because if you do that, this means you will get a card to your hand if you need it for like the grade 1s or the grade 2s, because those belongs to Afterglow. But if you see a trigger on top, you'll return that trigger on top of your deck, so you have a pseudo Oracle Think Tank top deck manipulation and get your triggers if you want them in your drive check, which is actually pretty sneaky. So if the triggers belong to a certain deck, you can basically play a different band triggers, but if the triggers belong to no band, you can just play whatever triggers and it still works this way. So That's pretty interesting about this grade 2 in particular. Then from the right chain, we're gonna go into support cast and then into the grade 3, because the grade 3 is the boss unit and that makes everything click, and you can see how this works. So let's go over the grade 1 support cast. And the first one we're gonna talk about is this grade 1, Big Sicily Disposition Tomoe Udagawa. And her ability is Auto and Rigid Circle once per turn when rest by another Afterglow's ability. So this deck is gonna rest its own units. Until the end of turn, your Vanguard gets power plus 5k, and if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 or greater, cost counter plus 1, and your Vanguards get a critical plus 1. So this basically, when it gets rested by another ability, you can give your Vanguard additional power buff and maybe an extra critical, which is pretty nice. It gives some extra pressure. So overall, it's a fine card. But we're going to see in a moment here how this actually will interact with the rest. Then the next grade 1 support card is Sugurific Tsugumi Hazawa. And her ability is on a Rigid Circle once per turn. When rest by another Afterglow's ability, you may stand this unit. So this will reset itself. And it's basically very similar to the grade 1 support card for the Aquaforce Revan build. Only this unit doesn't gain power. But it's pretty fine. It's pretty good to have a Narissa-like effect, so you can utilize your other cards on a better basis. So now that we see that these units interact with resting and they do something about it, let's take a look at the grade 2s that actually rest cards, and we get even more value out of that effect. So the first grade 2 we're going to look at is Mood Maker Himari Uehara. And Uehara's ability is Continuous Rigid Circle. If you have 4 or more Afterglows on Rigid Circle, they cannot be chosen by your opponent's effects. So 2 things about this. This can give your entire board resist, which is always pretty damn good. But another thing is, this card doesn't state that you need to have different names. So unlike the Pop and Party deck, this is similar to the other deck that we've seen, that basically you want to have a full board of the band members, but you can mix and match and you don't have to have unique cards onto the board to do your thing. So this is actually pretty interesting. Then the second ability is Act on Rigid Circle once per turn, cost counter plus 1 and rest a rearguard. So here we're going to start resting rearguards and draw a card. So you counter plus 1, draw a card, and you also need to rest a unit. But that resting unit will then activate the grade 1's ability, so you rest the grade 1's. Either it resets itself, or you give your Vanguard additional power and potential crit. So, pretty fine ability. Not amazing, but it's fine. Then we got the second grade 2, which is Super My Pace Mocha Aoba. And her ability is Continuous on Rigid and Guardian Circle. All of your Afterglow on Guardian Circle gets shield plus 5k. This is interesting because she herself is basically a 10k interceptor. However, if you keep her onto the field, and with the other grade 2, you can basically give her resist, so she cannot be sniped off by Kagero, you give all your other cards an additional 5k power. And if you have her multiple copies onto the board, this will stack. So you could have a very defensive approach about this. So that's actually pretty good. Then her second ability, which allows you to manipulate the rest abilities, is Act on Rigid Circle once per turn, cost Soul plus 1 and rest a rearguard. And all of your Afterglow units get power plus 5k until the end of turn. So by resting one unit, you give your columns an increase of 10k and potentially Vanguard another 5k. If you rest the grade 1 that gives the Vanguard additional 5k, then all your columns get an increase of 10k. If you rest the unit that can reset itself, you basically get the full benefit of the 10k on the column because the unit is now also standing. So what we see now is that the grade 2s are resting units for extra abilities, the grade 1s get extra value by being rested, and then the right chain basically gives more consistency of getting the cards to hand that we need. But now we get to the grade 3, which basically sums it all together. So the grade 3 is Important Friends Run Mitake, and her ability is Act on Vanguard Circle once per turn, cost rest up to 2 rearguards, so you can rest 1 or 2, also 0, but then why would you even use the skill? Choose the same number of your units as the number rest for this cost, and they get power plus 10k until the end of turn. So basically, you rest your 2 boosters and give the front row units plus 10k power. That's basically the gist of this. Then also our second ability is the same that we see with all the other grade 3 boss monsters. Act on Vanguard Circle if an order was not placed this turn, cost counter plus 1, search your deck or drop stone for up to 1 Afterglow music and play it. And if you search your deck, shuffle your deck. So this is a very basic gist of it. So the main idea behind this deck is basically rest your cards, gain value of that, create power, potentially give crits to your Vanguard, and then do your thing. And then you have the grade 2 of the right chain, the grade 2 run Mitake to potentially manipulate your deck to get triggers on top of your deck if you want to go that route. So, pretty interesting. So you can do two things here. You can either manipulate the grade 1s, so you get value out of that, and the grade 1 that can reset itself, so you can have a full column, or you can rest those grade 1s and then recall other grade 1s on top of them to have full standing columns to then swing it to your Vanguard's face. That's if you just look at these cards by themselves. But we still got the music order cards that basically changes this dynamic and give us even more options. So let's go over those music cards to have a better gist and better understanding what Afterglow has in store for us. So the first music that we've got, the grade 1, which is an interesting name as it has YOLO as name, you only live once, or maybe it stands for something else for in the Japanese language, but I go with you only live once. And its skill is basically auto Vanguard circle when placed, draw a card. So it's a cycle, or in this case it's a cantrip because you get an extra card to hand, which is, it's fine. But then its second ability is auto Vanguard circle. At the beginning of your battle phase, stand up to one of your afterglows. So this basically allows you on turn 1 to restand one unit. On turn 1, however, this isn't good because you cannot rest anything because only your grade 2s rest something. If you play this on your second turn, then you can restand one of your grade 1s, then have a full columns, because if you have the grade 1 that restands itself in one column, that will be restood anyways, and if you have the other one that gives your Vanguard an additional 5k power, they can restand that one with this order card, so you can have full columns attacking you, which is pretty nice. Then for the grade 2 order card, we have Scarlet Sky, and its abilities are auto Vanguard circle. When placed, if you have an Afterglow Vanguard, search your deck for up to one Afterglow unit card with a different card name from each of your units on the Vanguard or Vanguard circle and review it. Put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So this basically allows you to search out anything if you need it to set up your board. But what it also allows you to search is the grade 3. So if you miss the grade 3 for your right target, you can basically search it out, add it to your hand, and be ready for next turn. So this is actually a pretty good consistency card, but besides being a good consistency card, it also allows you to get full potential or full capabilities out of your cards with its second ability, which is auto Vanguard circle. At the beginning of your battle phase, stand up to 2 of your afterglows. So if you did not get the grade 1 that can reset itself, or you were forced to rest that unit twice, then you can basically restand your boosters by this order card, which basically gives you full access to all your cards. As potentially, if you use this on your grade 3 turn, the grade 3 rest 2 units, you maybe want to use one of your grade 2s to rest something else to get more power. And if you do that, you basically rested 3 rear guards, but with the grade 1 that resets itself, that can basically be itself twice. So those units will stay at rest, you go into battle phase, and they stand themselves, and you basically are ready to go or do your thing. So that's pretty nice about the Scarlet Sky, how you can interact in that particular interaction. But now we get to the grade 3 order card, and this opens up some interesting options. So the grade 3 order card is On Your Mark. Its skill is on a Vanguard circle once per turn. When your Vanguard with Run Mitake attacks, you may stand one of your units with Mokaoba in its card name, one of your units with Himari Urara in its card name, one of your units with Tomoe Udagawa in its card name, and one of your units with Tsugumi Hasawa in its card name. If 4 were stand, get 2 imaginary gift force. So basically, this card asks you to have the entire band assembled, and you can restand them all, and if you did, you get 2 extra force markers. So this card allows you to do 2 things. Either it's similar to the grade 1 and the grade 2 order card, that it stands the units that you rested onto the board. So let's say you utilize the grade 3, you utilize multiple grade 2s to rest your entire field to get all kinds of skills active. You use this order card, you attack with the Vanguard, reset your board, and you can still attack 3 times. Because you want to at least attack 3 times in a forest clan, and while doing it this way, you also generate 2 force markers. You can put them all to the side columns to give both attacks an increase of 10k, and you can go wham. But that, in my opinion, is the weakest way to use this card. The best way to use this card is to get actual 2 extra attacks out. You can attack with your side columns, then attack with the Vanguard, and then attack once again twice with your side columns because you just restood everything. As you can use your rest units to give extra power to the field, but you have the grade 1 that can reset itself. But if you actually want to go ham, you can basically use your units to rest multiple things. So you can use the Vanguard skill to rest your back row, then gives your front row 10k power, and then recall more cards from your hand onto the board, then use the grade 2s to rest those units again to get more value, and then recall once again newer grade 1s onto the board that are still standing, and then proceed to get into your battle phase. And the reason why you can do this with this deck is that you have some plussing, you have some filtering, but you don't have to recall a lot to the field because the grade 2 gives resist to everything, and you have the other grade 2 that gives more shield value to all cards in your hand, so you don't have to waste a lot of cards from hand to keep guarding against your opponent's attacks. So you have way more options to keep your hand at a healthy hand size, and in a final turn push, you can actually do this and have some really good solid multi-attacking with some big numbers to boot, because your Vanguard gives 10k power to the front row. You have the grade 2 that gives an extra bit power. You have the grade 1 that gives even extra bit power. So your attacks will come in for a decent sizable numbers, and you attack 5 times. So on your mark, definitely rounds up this entire deck and gives the deck a lot of options, as you either can go for consistency and utility wise in your combo plays, or you can go for this insane final push turn while you attack 5 times with big numbers. And don't forget, you have the grade 2 of the right chain that can potentially check the top cards of your deck and see if you see a trigger, and then leave it on top to have a critical while also doing all these things. So yeah, Afterglow is a very interesting deck. We got Pop and Party, that's all about superior calling and building the exact field, and then unleashing a lot of power. We got Pastel Palettes that use everything with the soul that you want to set up with certain soul. And then we got this resting mechanic for Afterglow, which is an interesting take on Bang Dream with the force mechanic, while also doing this interesting thing with music order and the band concept. So yeah, Afterglow looks pretty interesting, looks pretty solid for what it does. Might not be the most explosive or the most insane combo potential like we've seen with the other 2 bands, but I think it's a solid enough deck that is probably on the more consistent side, as you have a lot of extra pluses and you have resist and shield options, which are actually pretty damn good. And that basically rounds up everything for the reveals that we've got today. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think of the new information that we got for the big booster sets for VBT 8, 9, and 10, as well as the new Afterglow cards that we got for Bang Dream, for the title booster Bang Dream Film Live. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions in the comments down below. And as always, this video has been brought to you by our lovely patrons over at patreon.com/Vanguard Insider. You guys are amazing. If you do want to support the channel or everything that's happening on the channel, you can simply do that by subscribing and hitting the bell button to be updated for future videos, and of course liking the video. If you guys want to help us a bit more directly, you can simply do that by going to patreon.com/Vanguard Insider and become a patron today. But with that said, I'm Mr. Time Leap, and I'll see you guys in the next one.